Here's a double pinwheel template you might like to try. Come on in and let me show you how to make it. Hello everybody, this is Julia Laird with Senior Susie Stamps. And today I wanted to show you about my little pinwheel card. I had a request off of the box making video to show you all how I made this little pinwheel. And so I thought I would do that today. Now I started a card and the glitter on it is drying, but I'll show it to you in a few minutes. That particular one, I used this Playful Pinwheels template from Hot Off the Press, which is paperwishes.com. And I was hoping to find a 3-inch square. This is a 4-inch square, but it was just a little too large for the card size that I wanted to make. And this one was a little too small. So let me show you how I make my own template. And you can make one too, because I know several of my watchers on my YouTube channel are not in the United States, so they might not have access to that little pinwheel template. Now, this is heavy cardstock because I like to make my templates out of heavy cardstock. And it is 3 by 3, and I've taken my diagonal lines and put them on, and now I'm going to punch the center hole punch using my crocodile punch and put it right there where that crosshatch comes together. Now I have punched out of the same paper a 1/2-inch circle, and I'm going to take some art glitter glue and glue that down. I do this not only on the templates, but also on the pinwheels themselves when I cut them. Oh, now I backed off the center 1/4 inch, and that gives me the spot where I need to put my little circle, you see? Let me show you up close. That puts it right in the center for me. And then I'm going to go back and punch again through that same hole from the back side. And all that does, it acts like a reinforcer, but it also gives you your cutting gauge. Excuse me, my allergies are in full tilt. It's spring here in Tennessee, and we're enjoying lots of flowers and lots of woods pollen. Now, I'm going to cut each one of these lines right down to that reinforcement circle. And that's the first step. And just cut right on your line. And when I cut down, I try not to use the end of my scissors in that final little cut so that it doesn't tear that paper. Just ease on down in there and make your final little cut. Now the next step is to go right back around and take a little wedge off. Right back down to where you were. You see what I'm doing? This wedge is probably 1/4 inch at the widest place. And all this is going to do is to give you just a little bit of ease room to move your pinwheel fins in, because these are double pinwheels, and so you have to have a little extra room. And you can see what I cut off there. And of course, if you want to be exact and have them all the same, you can measure each one individually. And what I usually do then is I go to the side that I just cut off, and I'll cut my little spot for my hole. Now this one I will travel with. I just have it in my hand, and I always keep the same one for the gauge. So I'll toss the bottom one away and just move around. Does that make sense? I hope you can see that okay. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but my big dog Lucy's up here just snoring away. Oh my goodness, she cracks me up. There. Now, that's the 4 little cuts here. Now the next thing that we want to do is make a little curvature, and you can be a little adventuresome with this, and that's fine. We want to make a curve here that gives you a little bit of ease for movement, and we also want to make a little curve that kind of gives you a little swoop-de-doo. And we're going to do the same kind of thing. I'm just going to cut my pencil line off a little bit there. And just freehand this first one. And then travel with it the same way you did before. If you're comfortable doing that, otherwise you can draw them back in with pencil line. It doesn't have to be precise and exact, but close is good enough. There. And then on this one, we're going to come in, and all we're doing here is making a little cutout like that. And we'll do the same thing. And I think with this one, because it's all down in there in the pointy stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and draw off of those. That first one that I cut, and then I'll just leave the line showing on my little template. And again, these don't have to be all precise and exact. Pinwheels have been around for a long, long time. I ought to look up the history of the pinwheel before I finish this video. Maybe there's something interesting there.
Well, Google search says that pinwheels have been around as whirligigs since 400 BC, originally from China. And they were to turn your luck around so that you would have good luck. So as you blew on them, you blew your bad luck away and welcomed your good luck in. Isn't that fun? Something to think about.
There. So that looks about right. And they're not exact, and it's okay. I don't need everything to be exact on these kinds of things. But now I want to put the little holes in here, and I'll just give myself a little kind of gauge so that when I get up underneath that crocodile, I'll have something to kind of go by. And I'm using the smaller hole, of course. And you could use a punch, or a little, like an awl, or one of those little pokey tool things to do this. I just think that this particular tool makes a nice size hole, and so I like to use it because it does a nice clean hole. I don't have any trouble struggling to get a brad through it. And so there we go. Now I am going to go ahead and punch another piece of scrap cardstock with my 1/2-inch circle punch. And I'm going to go ahead and punch a couple more because we'll need them when we do the decorative paper. And I'm going to glue this onto the back. It doesn't do any harm to have a little extra reinforcement, especially on your template that you'll be using again and again. And it should fit right in those little points because we cut to it on this side. So I'm just going to go back and repunch that hole there. Now, so there's my little template. Now let me go get some paper, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is a paper pack called Pretty Little Posies. And it happens to have some brads with it. So I thought we would use one of the brads. And you know how I am here. I like to use the smallest piece of paper that I can. Let me see if any of these might happen to be a 3-inch. Yep, there's one. You want double-sided paper now when you're doing this. And here's another one. Okay, there we go. So we'll use those two, and maybe we'll make the card up on that. We'll see. I don't know. I'll go ahead and cut these at 3 by 3. Now, on this paper, because there's two sides that are very similar, I want to turn one of them so that when they flip, because when they're flipping, you can see both the inside and the outside on these. Then I'm going to take my little template and put the corners where they need to go. I've got some tape that is not permanent tape, it's temporary, and I'm just going to put a piece all the way across here, just right like that, and wrap it around easy. I don't want to pinch it too hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my template, and you don't have to draw exactly the whole thing like over where the tape is. Don't worry about pulling your tape and drawing down in there. You can figure it out when you're cutting it. You'll see here in a minute when I cut. And I'm just putting a little light pencil line there. And then I'm going to try to cut my pencil line off. It's easier than trying to go back in and erase when you get it all cut. Oh, and I want to make my little circles. And I want to do this one as well. Now, I'm going to pull my tape back to pull my template off. And I'm going to put another little piece of tape on here and cut these together. And the tape will just help me hold it while I'm turning it and doing all those little tiny cuts in there. So I'm going to start again and do the same process that I did on the original template, and that is to cut the 4 corners in. And on your designer paper, it's important now that you don't go in and snip right down to the very end, because your designer paper is going to be a little more fragile, and this is where it will rip when you're putting your template together if you're not careful. This may seem kind of fidgety, but you know, it's enjoyable, the process is, and the end result makes a really pretty little pinwheel. Okay, and now we're going to, oh, I forgot this part, didn't I? Well, we'll do it now. Oh me. While I was cutting, I was wondering why they looked kind of weird. Well, that's why, Julia. Gracious sakes. Okay. All right, now we're going to cut this little curvy do off. This reminds me of cutting fabric after you've traced your pattern. When I was a kid growing up, we made all of our own clothes, and so we cut a lot of patterns. I never made any patterns, but I know a lot of people do. I'm not that adventuresome. All right. Now Now I'm going to take an eraser, and let me show you the eraser that I like to use. It's a Pentel Click Eraser, and it's ZE22, and it's a white eraser. So you don't ever get any ick on your project off of the eraser itself. And I'll go ahead and leave those little hole marks there because they're going to be cut out or covered up with brad anyway. Now, what I do on my erasers, when they've got stuff on them, I'll just take a piece of scratch paper then and erase all that ick off, because that's what will discolor your next project that you try to erase if you're not careful. Okay, so now, I'm going to hold that carefully and go ahead and put it in and punch my holes. I know you probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'll show you the end result. And I need to punch that center hole. And now's the time that I want to go ahead and put my little reinforcer wheel on these and go back and punch it again. So that's what I'm going to do now. This really helps. It helps your pinwheels not to tear. Looks like I had some stamping on the back of that one, doesn't it? Alright, and now I'm going to go right back in and punch that hole back out again. It does not take long to make these, and once you get it figured out, you've got your template. So we spent a little time today making the template. I use this end of my little stylus, and you bring your little hole, and this is where you can't turn it too far, but you just have to start. And I do alternating ones, so make sure that your paper is alternating. Don't worry about trying to get your spread at this point, because you'll adjust that in a minute. And you can see why now we had to do all that extra cutting out, because you wouldn't be able to get them all turned up in there. Well, I got my brads out, but I did it again. I didn't actually get the brad itself out. That's what I did the last time. You'd think I'd learn, but you know, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Oh, come on. Let's see, which one are we going to use today? Well, I might as well just start that again. I hope you're not as silly as I am. Let's use this one. It's pretty. I like it. And the first time you put your brad in, here, let's throw this thing together again right quick. It'll go together a little easier this time. Now, I'm going to put that in there. And I don't want to crank down on this too terribly tight, because I do need to have some room to move the pinwheel apart now. And this is where you start spreading it just a little bit, and you have to be kind of careful here that you don't start ripping things. You just kind of have to ease it apart some, and you have to just work with it. This is the most frustrating part, I think, of making these things, because they've got to just kind of work a little bit and work a little more and just keep moving around. This one's going to be pretty, isn't it? And you have to kind of work it back up in, see? There. Once you get the first go around, then you can be a little more aggressive with it. Not too much now, because you end up ripping something. that you don't want to rip. The key is to start working them up into themselves. Like see here, this has got to come around and get up in that little groove there. And it's possible, if you struggle with it like this, that you don't have your little slot cut quite far enough down. Now we're making some progress. There. There we go. Now let's see, I'm going to cut this piece for a card, and I'll come back when I get the card base fixed. So hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my card base all finished, and this is just a top folding A2 size card, and I used that piece of paper that I had, and now's the time that we'll want to tighten up on that brad and plug our hot glue gun in. And make any final little tweakies, because once we get it glued down, that time has passed. So I'm thinking right about there would be good. Looks like I'm going to need to make a box for this one, doesn't it? Because it's going to take a little more room. If you don't know how to make a box for something like this, I just published a video earlier this week, and there's a formula for whatever size box you think you might need. I made a little piece of wood, faux wood, out of a brown piece of paper, and I just drug a ink pad over top of it to give it a little wood grain. And I like to be kind of generous with my hot glue on this because, you know, it's going to have to hold it. And then I just press it down and hold it for a little minute till the glue starts to cool. There. And then I'm going to put my little wooden stick. Now, used to, if I recall correctly, these were on straws so that you could blow on them, and then the wind would come right up in here and it would spin. But we're putting ours on a little wooden stick. There. And I'll make that into a happy birthday card, I think. Now let me show you this other one that I've got almost ready to put together. I stenciled this piece and added some glitter glue in on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on. I have a friend who has a July 5th birthday, and so I'm always looking for a little idea for kind of a festive birthday card for her. And that's what this one's going to be. And this was a cutout on that paper pack. I don't remember what the name of this paper was. I'm sorry. But I thought that was going to be so cute. Then I'm going to go ahead and put the little stick on there and put my little love sign on there. Elevate that up some, I think. Don't you? I believe it needs to go up. That way then we'll know where to put the little pinwheel. I'm going to move that down just a touch. And we'll use my hot glue. I've already tightened this little brad up. I like the way these double pinwheels have so much variety in the paper that they're just they add a lot to the motion of the card, I think. And kind of point it right towards the center there. And there we go. Card 2's done. So let me know in the comments whether you like these pinwheels or not, and if you think the little template will help you. So there's today's video, and I hope you'll come back and join me again soon. I think these are just fun, don't you? Bye-bye, y'all. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.